This man is never snowed in. He's never worried about the snow because he's lived through real snow. It's time for Cover Your Assets with Jim Lynch. Jim is an independent voice on Wall Street, the economy, bringing well over 40 years of experience to those subjects and more, and walking to school in 2 feet of snow. Good morning, Jim.
Well, you forgot to mention the closing of my school, the School of Hard Knocks. That one is over, so that one's over for a while, yeah. I hope. Anyhow, I walked to school when I was 6 by myself. My mother had some kind of problem. It was my first day of school, so that was my early remembrance of school. Before, I really have some stuff today, not that I don't on most days. Let's talk Tom Brady, who, incredible, 43 years old. He's got the arm strength of a 17-year-old. And I think it was more the fact that Green Bay really didn't give much support to their quarterback, nor did they figure out Tom Brady. So hats off to Tom Brady for what he's done.
I want to stay there. I want to stay there for a second, Jim, because I was never somebody who didn't think Tom Brady was a great quarterback, but I was never in the corner of him being listed in the top 3 or the greatest quarterback. But after what happened on Sunday, after seeing what a 43-year-old athlete who's been in the business for 20 years can do, and then taking the time and thinking about this, Tom Brady has been in the league as a starting quarterback 20 years. He is now entering his 10th Super Bowl in those 20 years. That means in his playing career, he's been in the Super Bowl 50% of the time. And in those 10 Super Bowls, right now, he stands at winning 6. And folks, if it weren't for the New York Giants, Tom Brady would be 8 for 9 in his Super Bowl appearances. Add all that up, and I don't want to hear any more questions about Deflategate or anything else. This man is simply the greatest quarterback that has ever played this game.
Amen to that, and I really like the fact that I think in his new spot with the Bucks, he's much more relaxed and he's much more happy, and he's got less of the scowl that I used to see when he was with the Patriots, winning or losing. And maybe that scowl had to do with Belichick. I don't want to get personal, but I was delighted to see he looked like a young, fresh guy, kind of energetic and smiling. And what can I tell you? It's a nice, lovely story on these particularly troublesome days.
That's it.
Now, I want to get to something that I wasn't going to speak about, but I saw it flash on the CNN as I was waiting the call. Joe Biden has basically overturned Donald Trump's basically saying we want to arm the police forces with grenades and bayonets. This was done in 2017. Nobody, I don't think, really paid much attention because in that year there were so many other things going on, be it the trouble at the border, et cetera, et cetera. But here's my point. As we've uncovered the dastardly behavior of Trump, it appears to this particular human being that he had a plan in mind a long time before he was ever voted out or maybe going to be voted out. This guy's mindset was that of a dictator. If you think of Hitler, what did Hitler do first after his 200 rally in the Hamburg beer garden? He went out and basically got the police on their side, and those who he were not on his side, he created his own police forces, which then did their number on individual citizens. For you who has voted for Trump, not voted for Trump, all of us must come into concert with the fact that not only were we told long ago that he had the book Mon Kav in his bedroom drawer by his wife, told us that, his first wife. This guy has been a schemer and a planner to take things over since God knows when. So I know more is coming. I mean, more comes out each day. This thing in Georgia, they might be suing him. The DOJ investigating this DOJ executive who was pushed by Trump because he had the same views on overcoming the election. So I want everybody to stay tuned, but, you know, maybe this is that point. Maybe this is that point where people begin to say, you know, Trump fooled me once, he fooled me twice, he just kept fooling me. And wake up to who this man is. So as we go into the conviction meetings on Trump, please get in touch, if you want to, your representatives and voice your decision that you want the man convicted, thrown out of office so he may never serve again. Now, the Republican side. The Republicans seem to be afraid that Trump is going to come after them if they vote to impeach. Well, these people have lost their minds in the process of toadying up to Trump. Trump has so much legal problems, and he probably will go to at least a state jail, that he's going to be in no shape to do anything to primary them, etc. However, more importantly is the fact that the Republicans are going to have a big plate to eat on if they voted not to convict, because the Democrats are going to come out of the stall, and they're going to use that from now until the by-elections in 2022. These Republicans have enabled Donald Trump to kill 300,000 to 400,000 American citizens by lying about the virus, by stalling on the virus, by basically subjugating the people in science to a blackout on the real news. And now we find in March of April of last year, he thought about a vaccine. Well, folks, we have found out we do not have any vaccines coming back from the Trump representation. So I want you all to put that in your pipes and smoke it. And you better figure out right now whether you're going to be with us or against us in terms of this criminal.
Here's the whole thing about what Donald Trump has done. And first of all, he has awakened 70 million people who basically have felt like the country has left them behind, and he's given them a purpose to do whatever they're doing. Now, I don't think necessarily Republicans are worried about Donald Trump endorsing them. I think now that Donald Trump has basically changed the Republican Party with the 70 million people that voted for him, probably, I'll say 45, 50 million of those people believe in everything that Donald Trump believes in. So now you have all the members of the Republican Party who are in office that want to tap that 70 million people so they can run for president. That has become the major objective. And so what they are worried about is if they don't wholeheartedly fight for Donald Trump when they run for president, they're not going to get the support of those 70 million people. Now, it's a dastardly thing to base your principles on your run for president, but that is exactly what's happening. And anybody who sits out there right now of the 78 million people who voted against Donald Trump have got to stick to their guns, because we need some time to settle down. We need the 4 years of Joe Biden to settle down, and we also need those 4 years for Democrats and independents somehow to convince the 25 or 30 million people out of those 70 million voters for Donald Trump that there is an alternative to what Donald Trump brought to them, and it's everybody's job to do that. And we'll see what happens. I don't see it happening in 4 years. I see it maybe happening in 8 or 10 years. But my father had an old expression, and it was "let sleeping dogs lie," because a sleeping dog cannot attack you or bite you. Well, the sleeping dog has been awoken, and it's not. He's not. That dog is not going back to bed anytime soon. I think most Americans have to realize this. And like I said, I have a lot of my friends that voted for Donald Trump. A lot. Just like a lot of people voted for Donald Trump. And you know what? The people that I know personally, my close personal friends that voted for Donald Trump, they're not racist. They're not mean people. They're not horrible people. They're people that have been convinced that yes, the government has overlooked them, and so they're looking for that person that they think will support them. That's the biggest thing that I think everybody has to learn in this, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens because this is a pretty blatant political move, and it's going to backfire or else it's going to work out really well. It's hard to tell, but boy, there's so many different layers to what's going on in Washington now. It's like peeling back an onion, Jim. There's so many different layers that you have to get through to find out. And like I said, this 4 year period, this 4 year stretch of Joe Biden is a time for the country to cool down and see what happens. So it's going to be very interesting in 2 years to see if this play or this ploy by Republicans to get those 70 million people behind them to vote for president in 4 years, to see how it turns out in 2 years when you have the election once again of Senate and House.
Okay. Well, to all those folks who voted for Trump the first time and the second time, I find it very interesting that they think he had something for them. He's a man totally for himself. But more importantly, in terms of his character, he's a degenerate. He's a sexual exploiter. He's abused women. He's abused blacks. He's abused Jews or used Jews where he could for his own means. So I'd like to know what exactly is it that people admire in Donald Trump. He has nothing going for him as a human being. He is a maggot. He feasts on the flesh of other human beings or their brains. And so I'm hopeful that people wake up, but I'm telling you right now, this dog is starting to bite because I'm going to bite on these damn Democrats to get off their behinds and go for the by-elections now. And the key is enablers. If you were a Trump enabler, we're coming after you, and you were going to get rid of you. And by the way, one last thing. Josh Hawley, it's in the papers, 15 years old. He wrote an article backing McVeigh in the Oklahoma bombing. So you want to know who you're voting for? You better pay attention to what they've said in the past. Character doesn't change that quickly unless you put a stick to it.
You know, it's interesting when you bring this up, Jim. We now look and with all the protests about police brutality against blacks and people of color, and let's be honest about this. Most police, almost probably 90% of them, are hardworking people and we need the police. But over the past 5, 10, 12 years, people that have the same feelings as Donald Trump and some people that raided the Capitol. I'm not talking. There's about 2,500, 3,000 people out of that 10,000 people rally that Trump did that raided the Capitol. Well, people like that have now already infiltrated very quietly over the past 10 years the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, local police forces, state police forces, National Guard. And what this country has to do is re-examine and take a look at everybody that's in these positions of ultimate authority, of life or death, and find out where the bad apples are and get rid of the bad apples. I mean, we have a major, over the next couple of years, major problem to find out where these people who have come to hate what this country stands for, where they are in positions of ultimate power, and they have to be rooted out.
Three quick things. One, we do not have a law against domestic terrorism. We have one against international terrorism. We must change that. We must change that immediately. Two, we must get rid of the ability of rich people to buy elections. Sheldon Adelson spent $75 million on Trump. That must go. We must take money out of politics. We take money out of politics, and we get people of principle who decide to do things. Right now, since there's so much money in politics, individuals are tempted to sacrifice what is right and principle and cop and deals and let people off the hook. All you have to do is look at all of the pardons that were given by Trump. These people are scum. Scum, much like Trump, is scum. And I'm sorry, if I'm a little bit upset today, trust me, folks, you should get upset, okay? In terms of waiting 4 years, I ain't waiting 4 years. I'm putting my money and mouth into taking the Republicans down in 2 years.
It's, I don't watch much TV news anymore. I do read more. I read, as a matter of fact, I read what I consider conservative online newspapers because they're not frenetic. And like I'll take a look at the website The Hill. Every day I go to The Hill, which talks really in a conservative manner about what's going on in Washington, D.C. And yes, folks, I do go to the Drudge Report, and I just look over the stories that are on the Drudge Report. What I think people in this country need to do is, I don't have to go to MSNBC. I don't have to go to CNN. I don't have to see that viewpoint. I am far more progressive than that viewpoint, but as a human being that has friends that are conservative, I want to understand what a true conservative believes in. So when I'm talking with them, I understand from where their point of view is coming from. What happens to me, and I don't know what it is that there are some points of view that come from the people. Like, I cannot understand any American who justified what happened at the Capitol 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter whether you're conservative, doesn't matter whether you're liberal, progressive, it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, yellow, green, brown, whatever. Doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. If you are an American, you understand the sanctity of the Senate, the House, our Supreme Court, whether or not you agree with decisions that come down or not, and the office of the presidency. This is where I try to investigate and find out how, in God's name, anybody can support what happened at the Capitol. That just, I can understand a lot of people being upset at different organizations and different protest marches. I don't understand how people can accept an attack on the country itself. I have yet to find any place, and these conservative websites, by the way, that I go to, they're not even justifying it. So I don't understand where the people in this country and the politicians that are letting this slide by, I am absolutely total without understanding on that.
Well, I don't understand it either. I think they've just basically succumbed and become a cult. They just want to have a guy out there beating the drum for what they want. Be it right or wrong, they want a guy beating the drum. And they selected somebody who's a vicious mongrel. And if they want to follow that, fine, find it. Too damn bad that when the Capitol was breached, that the cop who shot the one woman dead who was coming in through the door, they didn't drop 20 or 30 of them. maybe we'd be having a different conversation when the 30 white people are dead at the hands of the cops, as opposed to these black people. That's one of the major problems in this country. We were supposedly, the Constitution says all men are free and rights and so forth. Well, thanks to the Civil War and the way the South responded, we have put ourselves in a noose with our policies on race. And so we've got to deal with that. And everybody's got to stand up and look themselves in the eye and say, where exactly are you? Forget what you say or don't say. People have got to know, where are you as a citizen of the greatest country in the world? I think we're coming to an end. Tom Brokaw, 55 years retiring NBC. He wrote a great piece on the last generations that really made us as great as we were coming out of the Depression and the Second World War. You should give that a read, or I think there's a documentary as well.
All right, Jim. Well, we've used up our time.
We've used our time, and I haven't used up all my energy. I kind of think I have, but I haven't. I'm sorry if I was a little loud and brusque, but I'm sorry.
Hey, Jim, it's your opinion, and you know what? What we try to do on this radio station is we put opinions out, and we let people decide. That's what we do, so don't worry about it.
Well done.
All right, Jim, I'll speak
to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll speak to you next week. Jim Lynch and Cover Your Assets here on Robin Hood Radio. And that is a reminder that what you hear on Cover Your Assets, when somebody gives an opinion on the station, whether it's Jim Lynch, whether it's myself, Don Morris, whether it's anybody, that opinion is their opinion. And that opinion does not necessarily represent anybody who volunteers for Tri-State Public Communications or works for Tri-State Public Communications at the radio station, at the Bargain Barn, at our TV station. It is their representation, and you have every right to come to us and put your perspective opinions on the air. All right? All right. Jim Lynch and Cover Your Assets, you can find it at robinhoodradio.com. Click on demand. Click on Jim Lynch and Cover Your Assets.